Hello, everyone. X-Wall Kill Bethelite here. And we're going to discuss a cult. And the cult leader, his name is John of God. Again, that's John of God is the name of the cult leader. Now, you can watch the show on Netflix. There's a whole show on Netflix about John of God and his cult. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this cult, and we're going to compare some things that are worse in the Jehovah's Witness cult than what was in the John of God cult. So the leader of this cult, before he ever started any of this stuff, was a pedophile. He molested his own daughter. He started off, believe it or not, the leader of this cult started off molesting his daughter and trying to trick his daughter into thinking that the molestation was some sort of ceremony, right? He would get a candle, have her do something to the candle, and try to make it out to be this big spiritistic ceremony where he was just molesting her. He was masking his molestation behind some spiritism act. Now, he molested his daughter for years. I'm talking years. He molested his daughter with that act. Eventually, apparently, he got good at it. And eventually, he took the act public. And that's what you're going to see in the show. Some of these are spoilers because some of this they tell you a little bit later in the show. But yeah, he starts off just as a child molester whose method worked apparently so well, he decides, I'm going to use this on other people. And the whole concept blew. He was telling people that he was a spirit medium, right? So the whole gist of it is he's telling you he can channel the spirit of people from a long time ago, different spirits. They come into his body and then they can heal pretty much any illness. Now, if you watch the show, John of God, you'll see how good of an actor he is. He's a pretty good actor. He's doing all the moving around and all that stuff, making people think that something is happening. And there'll be a line of people. I'm telling you, this was in Brazil. This thing blew. This thing became huge. John of God became huge. There would be a line of people lined up to get healed. People in crutches, people in wheelchairs. The people with a crutch would limp up to John of God. And John of God would do his little thing, take the crutch, toss it to the side, and say, walk. Well, the person who limped up to him with the crutch, after he took the crutch for them and tossed it to the side and said, walk, they would then limp away from him. They walked the same way they did before, just minus the crutch because he threw it across the room. I'm talking, if they were healed, if you watch the show on Netflix, even on YouTube, there's news videos about John of God. But if you watch the show on Netflix, pay attention to the people that he quote unquote heals. Watch the people limp up to him He take their crutches, toss to the side, tell them start walking, and then they limp away. You're not walking no better. It's mental. In their head, they think, oh, I can walk now. You're walking the same way you were walking before. There was a guy in a wheelchair. They wheel up he's talking about John the God had, or John of God had healed him. And he's standing up, right in front of his wheelchair, knees and legs shaking, like he's struggling to stand up, barely standing up. Then he plops back down. If you were healed, you would get up, walk away from the wheelchair. Being healed isn't barely being able to stand up before you collapse back in the wheelchair. So he's got people coming to him with cancer and everything. And I'm telling you, he takes large scissors, shoves the scissors all the way up into people's nostrils to the point where only thing you see is a part where you hold with your hand, and he's twisting the scissors in their nostrils. Now, I don't know what kind of medical practice that is, but he's doing it. And it's working. After he does it, the person collapses, feeling like they're healed, and then they carry the person to another room where they lay them out. Well, here's the whole plan. They're going to bring a lot of people to him for healings. He is targeting the women. He's targeting people who are attractive. So everybody's going to come to him for healings. He's going to do the same spiel with the majority of the people that show up. But the women in the crowd, he's going to tell them, the medium needs to talk to you private. The medium needs to talk to you private. And he takes them to this room separate from everybody else. Keep in mind, this place is crowded. So he takes them to a room separate from everybody else. That should be a red alarm there. If he can heal and he can do it in front of the whole crowd, but yet this beautiful woman comes up and all of a sudden now he needs to be isolated. Now he needs to be away from everybody with him and her. Are you serious? So, of course, the medium needs to talk to you. It can't be in front of everybody like all the other people I healed. We got to go somewhere separate. So he takes them into another room and either he molests them. He just feels on them. He feels on them. On the show on Netflix, it shows him, this is in the crowd, grabbing a woman's breast, fondling a woman's breast, pulling her pants and her underwear where he can just pull her underwear open, just look in there and see. Like, what kind of healing is that? You need to look in her underwear. The interesting thing about this is that a pedophile, there's no conscious. Like, there's no conscious that says, yeah, it's really bad to use religion to manipulate people into molesting women and young girls. He molested young girls. There's no conscience. There's nothing to tell a pedophile not to use a religion and a religion's influence to gain access to women and young girls and molest them. Watchtower's finding that out, or has found that out also. There is nothing to stop a pedophile from going into the Jehovah's Witnesses, there are tons of them, and molest kids while they're out in service, or molest kids when they were going to their private homes for book study, molesting kids, anytime they are able to get them into, have them over for gatherings and whatnot. The thing is, though, is with John of God, he had these people so mysticized and they were so trusting that he might molest the woman on a one-on-one encounter, just him and her. Right? He may bring a woman to the side and go molest her, and then she don't even realize what happened until she gets back. But the young girls, the minors, the pedophile activity, he would bring the young girl, and the young girl's father, of course, is going to come with her. She's a kid. So the young girl's father is going to come with her, but he is going to do his thing. And it worked. He would be, oh, I need you. The medium needs you to turn away. Both of you close your eyes and turn away. So the little girl closes her eyes. The father, believe it or not, closes his eyes and turns away. And he sits there and he molests the young kids with their parents in the room. He just tells them to close their eyes and turn around, and they do it. And he's feeling all on the girl under her underwear and on her butt and breast area. And it became an issue because eventually people start to talk to the police. Like, people start telling what happened. And it was tough for the police at first to build a case, because you're talking, wait a minute. You mean to tell me someone molested your daughter and you were in the room with them while it happened? Somebody molested your daughter, but they were never alone with your daughter. Matter of fact, you were the one in the room with them. Can you see the problem the police are having when they're getting these reports about a man molesting kids in the presence of their parents? That religion is so powerful, and this is something that people really need to pay attention to. Religion is so powerful. This pedophile was able to molest kids in the presence of their parents. He would molest people in the presence of the whole crowd. He just tell them, close your eyes, and they would all do it. While he just molests people. He got so bold to the point that there were like 500 or 600 women and young girls reporting him to the police for molestation. Like, he took his whole pedophile practice to the extreme, and he was raking in tons of money doing it. The guy was basically getting paid to be a pedophile. This is probably the richest person making money being a pedophile. A full-time 24/7 pedophile. His job is to put on a show and then molest whoever he wants. And he's getting tons of money. He's being paid to be a pedophile. It's unreal. So basically, it's a metaphysical cult where they've got crystals. He was selling crystals for huge sums of money. He mixed some kind of mixture with some papaya or something like that, and was selling that, making all kinds of money. He's raking in tons of money, getting rich, and just molesting away. And eventually, the only reason this stopped is because of the snowball effect, or the avalanche of allegations, right? The police get a couple allegations of, okay, you mean to tell me this man is molesting kids with you present? Yeah, no, that's not going to fly. But as the allegations start to accumulate and other people hear, this person was brave enough to speak out. So I'm going to speak out too. And it just continued until you got hundreds of allegations. Hundreds. I'm telling you, it was like 600. Hundreds of allegations. And these are just the people that spoke up. The only reason they did it, though, is because of the bravery uh, of some to speak out, and then others became brave enough to do it also. Now, the thing about this speaking out is it takes a lot of bravery to do it, because there's a lot of shame in being raped slash molested. To really understand that, I would have to have a woman here to explain it, because I can't. Guys, we live in a whole nother. I mean, I don't think we have to deal with it as much as women do, right? But we can understand that being raped, like let's say a guy was raped in prison, is not something he's going to go around bragging about, because there's a lot of shame attached to it. So the point here is that it takes a lot of guts for people to speak out, and to speak out publicly in front of their family, in front of authorities, in front of everybody else a part of this cult. It takes a lot of guts to do that. And we know it takes a lot of bravery to do it, because during the whole Me Too movement, part of the whole thing was, the whole concept was that it's hard to speak out. And as some were able to do it, others were able to then have the bravery to say, yeah, me too, right? If I'm misrepresenting the movement, by all means, let me know in the comment. But it seemed to me it was the bravery to speak out. It was all about bravery to speak out and say, yes, me too, this happened. Now, if it took that much for a person to speak out that was a part of John of God, that John of God cult, if it takes that much for a person in the general public in society to speak out, if it takes that much to the point where there was a whole Me Too movement, right? If it's that major, right? You got women's advocate groups. If all this is necessary in just general society and in that cult, imagine how much would be necessary in the Jehovah's Witness cult. So you got to understand, the women involved in the Me Too movement, it took bravery for them to do what they did, but they're not faced with disfellowshipping. They're not faced with disfellowshipping. The John of God cult, it took a lot of bravery. Part of the show is all about the bravery to speak out and how hard it is to speak out. Well, they're speaking out minus the disfellowshipping, minus the policy where organization states, if you do or say something we don't like, we'll make sure your family and friends never speak to you. They weren't even faced with that. So imagine a person having to face the exact same fears that all these other women across the country, I'm sure across the world, have to face when they speak up about being molested, being raped, people doing things to them. Imagine having to build up that courage, plus it's worse in the Jehovah's Witness cult because of the shunning, because of the disfellowshipping policy. It's probably twice as hard. Imagine that. This is something that needs its own TV series by itself, right? We just had a show on Vice called Crusaders. Well, they've had all kinds of media coverage about how hard it is for women to speak up, and imagine young kids to speak up about being molested and raped. And they don't have to face disfellowshipping if they do, or shunning. Imagine it's twice as hard for a Jehovah's Witness, right? So if regular people get all this media coverage, all this Me Too movement coverage, well, Jehovah's Witness women should get twice as much focus, attention, coverage. As a matter of fact, as we, as a society start to understand that pedophiles and rapists and all kinds of really bad people have no problem at all using religion to do what they do to people. Once we understand that, we should not allow certain policies, such as disfellowshipping, such as, okay, if this person does come forward, they very likely could face their entire family turning on them. That's almost a guarantee that a lot of people are not going to speak up if they get molested, raped, or what have you. Beaten by their husbands, what have you. A lot of people are not going to speak up because if it is that hard for people in the general public that don't have to worry about disfellowshipping to the point where you get it, media coverage and everything, the whole world is focused on how hard it is for women to speak up, right? And how it takes multiple women sometimes before somebody is charged with anything. Well, why aren't we paying any attention to the Jehovah's Witness organization who is silencing people because of shunning and disfellowshipping? Why is that allowed? That's blatantly obviously going to make it extremely hard for anybody, women, young children, anybody to speak up. Right? Because you can imagine is how hard it is for a woman to speak up. Imagine a little kid thinking their whole family's going to turn on them if they say this elder that everybody likes did such and such to them. Think about the Catholic Church. Well, there was media coverage everywhere about Catholic priests molesting kids. The Catholic Church don't disfellowship like Jehovah's Witnesses do. They don't. So the child that was being molested, they needed the bravery to speak up about what was happening, regardless of how much his parents or whoever else liked that priest, trusted that priest. But even they didn't have to face, oh man, if I say something, I feel like I might, the fear of disfellowship. You gotta understand, in the Jehovah's Witness cult, I was raised in the cult. So as a child, I am watching the process or the disfellowshipping from childhood up. The fear is instilled into you. You sit there and you watch them announce someone's name on that platform, and then after that service, the meeting, you sit there and you watch while the entire congregation turns their back on that person and does not speak to them, and they just stand there. What kid do you think is going to want that to happen to them? Or what kid do you think would not be afraid of that happening? So Jehovah's Witnesses Watchtower organization, there's two names basically: Watchtower Bible Tract Society, and the people call themselves Jehovah's Witnesses. They like that title. But the point is that they have created a culture that is perfect for pedophiles. And if you thought pedophiles in the Catholic Church was bad, if you think sexual misconduct against women in the general public is bad. Imagine how bad it is inside of a cult, inside of an organization that uses disfellowshipping, or you could call it shunning, to keep people quiet about anything that would make them look bad. And rape, molestation, all that stuff definitely makes them look bad. So it's not something that they want out. This is something that should be receiving media attention. Any woman that has experienced rape and is enraged, as they should be, and they want to put a stop to rape, molestation, all of that, they want to stamp out the culture that supports it. Well, there is no stronger culture against speaking out than Jehovah's Witnesses. What other culture in America, around the world really, but especially in America and around the world, is there where they dissuade people from speaking out as much as they do in Jehovah's Witness religion? So that means that all these pedophiles, all these rapists, all these people are, for the most part, probably going to get away with what they do. Women who have experienced rape, whether you've experienced it or not, should be enraged by this. They should look into it. Do Jehovah's Witnesses shun people who speak out against their organization or people in that organization? Is there a such thing as disfellowshipping, where a person's whole family will turn against them if they say things they don't want to hear or they don't like? Look into it. If it's true, this should not be allowed. That is tantamount to legalizing pedophilia. You might as well legalize it. You're making it darn near impossible for a kid to speak up. In an environment where that kid just sits there and watches anybody that does something the organization doesn't like, they stand on the stage and point a finger and everybody turns their back on them. A child growing up watching that kind of trauma, they're going to speak up about themselves getting molested? Or a woman that's put in a position by somebody with authority in the congregation, they're going to speak up? It's going to be extremely hard. Candace Conti, that's a person who spoke up. And I remember as a child, this got media attention. And I remember as a child, my stepdad, who's now an elder, told the family, don't look at it. Don't look at it. And that's I'm telling you, Jehovah's Witnesses all turn their back on Candace Conti, right? Jehovah's Witnesses weren't behind Candace Conti and against the wrongdoer. They turned their backs on her because she's saying something happened within their ranks, and they don't want nobody to know about that. So just like Jehovah's Witnesses turned on Candace Conti, they would turn on anybody who spoke up about the sexual misconduct, rape, molestation that goes on inside the Jehovah's Witness organization. This is serious. This is extremely serious. We just had all this stuff going on with R. Kelly and all this other stuff, and you're trying to tell me none of these people have to worry about shunning. None of these people have to worry about disfellowshipping. You mean to tell me there's an organization inside America that is quieting victims of molestation and rape? Yes, Jehovah's Witnesses. Somebody needs to do something about this. Comment down below if there is any kind of women's advocate group that we can get a hold of and talk to about this. Any kind of government agency that's an advocate for women and children that we can talk to about this, comment down below. Let me know. 937-789-4029. X-Wall Kill Bethelite signing out.